Chad. I'm with the Mental Health Association of Nebraska in Lincoln. I'm going to talk to you about WRAP, Wellness Recovery Action Planning, the parts to it from the start to finish. The first thing is our 5 key concepts. These are evidence-based, and that means that if we have these 5 ideas, these 5 concepts in our lives, we can and do stay well for long periods of time. The first one is hope. It's in the first spot, not by accident. Anything happening happens by the energy of hope, and finding that. If we're lacking in it, we can hold it for each other. Our second concept is personal responsibility. What is ours? What is ours to show up to? What does accountability look like to us? We talk about our third one, which is education, a non-stop idea, a non-stop thing that can happen in our lives. We can continue to educate ourselves from a new dish to our serious mental health things. Our fourth one we talk about is self-advocacy, and self-advocacy is effectively being able to communicate for yourself, having the social skills, the idea, the knowledge to be able to speak effectively on your own behalf. And then the last concept, which I really feel like is the icing on the cake, is support. There are certainly times when we lose our motivation, when we lose our inspiration, when we want to celebrate the good things, and support, and the support we're talking about is that positive support that keeps us moving forward, helps us stay inspired, helps us in the direction of intentional recovery. So we talk about those 5 key concepts, always keeping in mind those ideas while we talk about the rest of the plan. The first thing that we do is we develop a toolbox. Now any tradesman has a toolbox, right? I mean, a mechanic is going to have a set of tools so they can work on cars and pickups. A carpenter is going to have tools that are specific to their trade and to what they're going to do. And we do the same thing with ourselves in our intentional lives and in our intentional recovery. Toolboxes, it consists of those things that help us feel better. It consists of those things that may help us move into recovery. It is those things that keep us intentional, that keep us in control of our lives. It can be something as simple as talking with a psychiatrist or a med change, all the way to taking a walk and watching the birds. It doesn't matter, it's individual, and our toolbox for those actions that we'll take that sometimes we need to help us move forward, but always the things that we need to help us stay well. The first is, what do we look like when we're feeling well, We do this to challenge ourselves, to remind ourselves, what it is that we do look like when we're firing on all 8 cylinders, when we're feeling like we're in our recovery. What does that look like? It can be talkative, it can be quiet, it can be anything in between, but we want to recognize the things in our lives that are positive. The second part in daily maintenance is the things that we need to do every single day, and I always add really whether I feel like it or not. We keep this to a list of things, to 5, 7, 8 things that are tangible and that we can accomplish. It might be getting out of bed, it might be having some fresh air, it might be speaking with someone, having something to eat, taking a shower, feeding the dog. I mean, all kinds of examples. Again, individually tailored and things that we are able to accomplish on a daily basis. The third part of our daily maintenance are things that we may need to do. Again, we draw all of these things from our toolbox, right? Things that we may need to do might be take a day off of work, or maybe work a little harder, or whatever. We might need to walk our dog a little bit. We might need to on and on and on. But again, the things that happen in the third part of our daily maintenance are, again, things that keep us well, that keep us in recovery, that keep us intentional about what we're doing. The next part that we talk about is the triggers. and what those are, and with anything in WRAP, we're going to talk about what a trigger is, but we're also going to come up with an action plan. Triggers are those things that happen and they're out of our control. It might be a date that comes up every year. It might be a smell. It might be something you hear on the radio. But the thing is that we are not in charge of those things. Those things happen and they're around us all the time. It's really, really good to understand what those are. But better than that, what those are and what do we do when we face those things. The next part is early warning signs, and when we talk about early warning signs, those are more of an internal feeling, more of an action that we're taking, or maybe that we're not taking to let us know that things might be getting uncomfortable. An early warning sign can again consist of all kinds of things. Again, we always talk about wellness and intentionalness. I say that over and over again when I talk about WRAP, but again, we know what our early warning signs are, or we pay attention to what they are. With some people that might be deciding to drink again. Some people that might be not taking medication. Some people that may be hearing something that you or I are not hearing at the same time. Again, individualized, but again, triggered to ourselves. We talked about the early warning signs in the action part. We become more specific in the next part, which is when things are breaking down, okay? And that is sometimes our last chance to stay in that part of intentional recovery. And when I say that, we want to be very, very specific with our solutions and our action plan when things are breaking down. We're going to talk next about a crisis plan and the 9 parts of what a crisis plan actually is. A crisis plan is the same idea as a mental health advance directive. And when we talk about that, we talk about the things that we do and the people that are in our lives that keep us in control, that keep us with our power. The thing that I've always loved about WRAP is that it has really helped me discover what my power is and the things that I can control and the things that I am responsible for. And when it's down on a piece of paper in black and white, when you're doing it, when you're feeling well, it creates a very powerful, tangible plan when you're not feeling so well. The one thing that's different as well on the crisis plan is that this is the part of the plan that you're going to need to share with someone. We talked about our 5 key concepts earlier, and one of those being support. This is one of those parts of our plan that we're going to want to share. We're going to want to make a copy of what that person's role is. We're going to want to discuss what their role is with our support. The first part of this crisis plan is, again, what does it look like when I'm feeling well? This time we're talking about that, so I'm talking to my supporters, so I am talking to possibly the doctor or the staff, and so they can recognize what that looks like. The second part is, what does it look like, or what are signs that others may need to take over? Again, examples of that, might be anything, but we're talking about serious things when we talk about relinquishing our power and control, or our keys, or our credit cards, or any of those kinds of things, Yet ultimately we're talking about staying in front and keeping our power. So part 3 is, who are our supporters? What is their role? What is my connection to them? How do I get in touch with them? What is it that their support means to me? We want to make a list of those people that's clear, that they know that they're our support. That's a big part of the support piece too, is talking to the support about what their role is and what it isn't. We get very specific. We would like to think of 5 supports that are not paid to be in your life. So the next thing we're going to talk about is part 5, and that is treatments, and what do treatments look like? And there are as many treatments as the day is long, and again, we base that on our own experience, our own expertise. What has worked for us? What has not worked for us? Again, are we articulating that? Are we making that clear in our plan? Part 6 is home or community respites. There are certainly other things offered in many communities other than psychiatric emergency room, and we want to make sure that we list those and utilize those if they're things that are useful and conducive to our own wellness. We want to keep those things down. We want to make sure that we're staying in charge of our treatment. Part 7 is facilities. Whatever those options are. I mean, again, this is always based on our own individual circumstances, our own individual communities, and we need to know what those things are for our mental health, and utilize what we see fit to stay healthy. Talked about support and help from others. Well, in Part 8, we're talking about what does that look like? What does help from others look like? What is their role? What is the support that you have to offer? Again, we want to be clear with keeping in mind we're trying to keep our power. We're trying to communicate with all of these things. And then the last part, of course, is going to be inactivating our plan. What does it look like to inactivate this crisis plan that we've set up in place? What does it look like to have the other intentional part of our life as far as maybe going back to work, going back to school? What does it look like? Have I eaten a few days in a row? I mean, do I know if it's 2 in the morning or 2 in the afternoon? Again, the examples are yours, they're your own, they're individual, but it is our responsibility to take action off of our own wisdom. And our post-crisis plan is simply, again, we've adjusted. Maybe the dust is settling a little bit. What does that look like, right? What does coming out of crisis look like to us? We have that list of things that we made in our crisis plan, but what does our post-support list like? We want to talk about the whole toolbox, daily maintenance, triggers, early warning signs again. What worked and maybe what didn't work with those things, What people do I need to thank? What people do I need to say sorry to? What people do I need to make an amend to? There's a big difference between saying sorry and making an amend. And sometimes certainly an amend is more useful and more conducive for the relationship. Also, with any adjustment, what did I learn from this last experience? This is my life. I'm holding the pencil to my story. What did I learn from all of